I was standing outside the bunker and I seen that cloud coming at us, and I just thought it was fallout from the rocket. And then the mass panic as soon as that chlorine hit us, and nobody could breathe. I mean, you stopped breathing like that. I mean, you couldn't inhale, you couldn't exhale.
Welcome back to Operation Intel. Today, we have somebody that I haven't talked to in a long time outside of the group chats. Mike Hartman, how have you been?
Living the dream, man. trying to survive retirement and working on my second retirement out here in the civilian world.
Oh, you're going to be double dipping, aren't you?
I'm going to try.
You're like, if I make it that far, yeah, I'm going to double dip. So, I talked to you, when was that? Last night, and you said you were living out in Illinois now, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
How's life been treating you?
It hasn't been bad. It's, right now I'm kind of, I guess, running through the motions. It was pretty difficult when I first got out to get started back up, and it wasn't so much. It was sitting around that drove me nuts, and went back to work, got my degree, and then had to adjust to civilian work atmosphere.
Yeah,
Accused a few times of being a little bit too harsh with my language, and
I would have never have guessed.
Had some issues.
Well, you've been in the group chats, and the maintenance platoon has really shown up when it comes to this channel. And you've been a big supporter of what we're doing here as well. What have you thought about what it's done in bringing us back together, and what have you thought about the videos so far?
Well, I think it's done a lot of good, because I'm a firm believer that, the VA is good, but you got to push your way through it. And I think this type of therapy for people, just getting back together, and how much, just since I've been there, how much laughing and joking, and, it's, I think we discussed this a little bit about, it's our coping method, and it's the way that we, deal with stress, deal with any kind of issues we're having, is we make fun of it. And, and I've seen that a lot in the chat groups and the videos and stuff like that. But as far as the videos go, it's helped close a lot of gaps for me, because I knew part of the story, but to hear it from somebody else was like, oh, that's what happened, or that, why did this take place? And then, and then next thing you know, it's like, what the heck's going on? And you don't know the middle piece. So that's helped me a little bit. I know your interview with Chief Hunter, just on the whole movement thing, and the FMT guys running out with you guys on patrol. I didn't know that he went up to the talk and was like, hey, knock it off. And that's because my plan was the guys were supposed to go out on every single patrol. And then all of a sudden that stopped. And so that helped close that gap for me.
Yeah, and I think that's a consensus on everybody, because I know for me, it's closed gaps. Even, I knew our maintenance platoon was amazing. You guys were awesome, but I had no clue that you guys did all the stuff that you did. So it's been amazing hearing these stories from Lion, Macaluso, Longnecker, LT, Cahill, Chuck. Like, I had no clue that you guys were out, even when we weren't out. I mean, you take a look at what, who was it? I think it was Longnecker and Lion had told me about the mission down there to Bakuba that we're going to get into here in a little bit. But it filled in all the gaps for me as well. and I'm getting to hear brand new stories that I've never heard before, and it's like, wow.
Yeah,
So I think, and you hit the nail on the head when it comes to making fun of each other. If you're in that rally point on Sunday nights, I get roasted the entire time, but I'm just laughing because you are completely correct. That's how we show love to one another, and it's been amazing to get to know you guys a lot better.
yeah, yeah. And I think probably for me, one of the things that I don't regret, but I wish I had done more of is gotten to know you guys in the platoons. And but like Chief said, it's lonely at the top. So I wasn't free to go from tent to tent and be like, "Oh, hey Tim, how are you doing today?" And
Yeah,
it's kind of one of them things. It's I know what it's like to be a private, and I know what it's like to work my way through the ranks. And our structure at the top is very limited to what we can do and the environments and stuff you come into. So
yeah. You retired at what? Were you an E7 when you got
yeah,
out, or
yeah,
yeah?
I got yeah. That's probably one of the bigger thorns in my side is I got passed over 4 times. And the last time I got passed over, we were in Iraq, and the sergeant major pulled me aside and was like, "Hey, I'm sorry." And I was like, "You ain't got nothing to be sorry about." And he said it basically come down to the Army didn't want me no more, and that's why I wasn't getting promoted. So
Wow.
I
Yeah,
took that with a grain of salt.
yeah. Like, damn, I'm getting old. It's
Yeah. Well, that's what he said. He's like, they don't want you old timers around. They want the fast trackers. And, it's bitter for me because, there's a little bit of animosity, with people like that. So I have a little bit of it in me about the people that fast track through the system. And I trained a lot of them
yeah.
at Aberdeen Proving Grounds. And so I seen what kind of crop of leaders we had coming through. And I wasn't impressed.
Yeah, we were fortunate enough, and it goes for everybody that was there in Bakuba with us at Warhorse. We had, and I've said it before, we had amazing leaders between you, Wash, Sergeant Smith, and even our LTs. Great leadership. And I think that, as I know on my end as a young soldier, you need that.
Yeah.
Um, you absolutely need that. And I feel like the quicker you move through the ranks and stuff, the more you miss being a great leader. You have to know what it's like to be led by a great leader, to be a great leader, in my opinion.
Well, I grew up in an era where it was kind of a joke, but they said that, if you got to tell somebody your rank, then you're not in charge, and, I had some good leaders when I was coming up, and they were all about earning respect and not demanding it. And, there's times to be like, oh, I'm a tough senior NCO. You shut up. There's times for that, but 90% of the time, there's no time for that.
Yeah. And you guys, you listen to, I think Sergeant Wash said it to me. He goes, if a private came up with a better idea than what I had, we
Hmm.
went with it. And the
Yeah.
reason why is because that's what kept people alive. He
Yeah.
said, and that's just smart, but that's
Yes.
also good leadership as well to say, I'm not always right. This way is better. Let's roll with it.
Hmm. Absolutely.
So let me, I don't know a lot about your background or anything. We've been talking for the last 2 nights for an hour and a half one night and probably hour and a half, 2 hours the night before, which is funny enough, probably more than what we got to conversate in Iraq
A lot
together.
more.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about before the military for you and what made you join the Army.
Well, I basically grew up in a small town, about 500 people in Northwest Illinois. It was pretty much considered a farming community. My high school graduating class was 17 people, and we weren't the biggest class, but it was good upbringing and traditional. You work hard, play hard type stuff, but we didn't have enough people to field a football team, so we didn't have no football. But on Sundays, we would go out in the cornfields and play tackle football out in the cornfield, which hurts a lot worse than regular football.
Oh
Um,
God.
and having BB gun wars in the barns and stuff like that. So it's that was our life, hunting and fishing, doing stuff like that. So uh, I basically there wasn't nothing but factory work and stuff to do. So and I was pretty smart in math. All the other subjects I didn't care about. So I was trying to do electronics. So I decided to join the military because my family's military. My brother and dad were in the Navy. You know, I forgive them, but
That's what I was getting ready to
uh,
say.
my uncle was my uncle was in the Marine Corps. He was in Vietnam. He's Purple Heart recipient, and he so I just followed the tradition and joined the Army, of course, because I don't like water. Um,
Me
and
either.
Yeah, and I heard one of your stories about the recruiter, and he lied his ass off to me too. And it's like, oh, sure, you're going to be doing all this technical electronic stuff and everything else, and then next thing I know, I'm working on Humvee generators and alternators. It's like, are you kidding me? So that's where all that came in. But I joined on the delayed entry program when I was a junior. I could have graduated early, but uh, handled it. I basically worked most of my senior year, so I didn't hardly. I went to a couple study halls and some shop class or something, and but I graduated 2 weeks later. I was in basic training. Went to Fort Dix, New Jersey. It's a big sandbox, and it was kind of funny because I'm like chief. When I came in, there were still some Vietnam era guys, and that was my drill sergeant. And
Oh
I
damn.
it was interesting with him. He still had some issues going on, and Drill Sergeant Clark, I'll never forget him. Just a tall, lanky guy, and honor in hell. And whenever you got in trouble in basic, all you had to do was say "fuck Jane Fonda," and he let you alone. I was like, "Are you kidding me?" But he was that. But we went to the field in basic training. He showed us how to make homemade ghillie suits, all that shit he learned over in the jungle. And I was like,
Oh
dude, I look back on it now and I'm like, holy crap, I should have paid attention more. So,
yeah.
but yeah, it was interesting. And a couple of guys were telling stories about their basic. My one that I remember, we could see from our barracks there was a soda machine within sight, and we tied together sheets and had a guy rappel out the window to go get us sodas in a pillowcase. And oh my God, did we get smoked for that one? And oh Jesus, that was brutal. That we paid for that soda.
Yeah.
Oh, but and I was like with the other guys. I made my bunk and slept under my bunk and on the floor. So
I didn't. I wish I would have been smart enough to have thought of that, but my ASVAB score kind of tells you that I'm not smart enough to think about that on my own. So
I can't
that's a
remember.
really good idea.
I think I had. I think I tested at either 114 or 124. I can't remember one of those two.
Holy shit.
So yeah, so I was just like, and I didn't think that ASVAB was shit. I was like, what kind of joke is this, But
Way to make me feel stupid over here.
well,
Damn.
I'm trying to. Hey, you want to know what stupid is when I went to MEPS, coming from that small town, we did MEPS in Chicago, and you talk about a fish out of water. I had
Oh, I'm sure.
a guy that was from the city. He actually punched me and was like, "Dude, stop looking up." And I'm like, "What's wrong?" And he was like, "Dude, they're gonna mug you because they know that you don't belong here." Because I was just like staring up at all the buildings and shit. I was like, "Holy crap, these buildings are tall."
Yeah.
And he was like, "Man, you just knock it off. Put your face, look at the sidewalk and walk." So
Damn.
I kind of got my first dose of reality of city life right on the spot there. So
What? Let me ask you this: what year did you go into the military?
I actually officially joined in '87. So
Oh, wow.
I
Yeah.
signed up in '86. And then, like I said, we graduated June 1st, and June 17th, I was in basic.
Okay. Yeah. That I was thinking about that and the difference in basic training because you said your drill sergeant was teaching you how to make like ghillie suits and stuff. We didn't learn any of that kind of stuff, which is kind of cool to me. But one thing, did you have to go to a different place for your AIT as well, or did they teach it right there?
Yeah, I went to like Macaluso and all them guys. They in Long Necker. We went to Aberdeen Proving Grounds,
Okay.
so in Maryland, and it's right. Well, the town's Aberdeen, and they had a couple different sections at the base that they taught AIT, and then they had BNOC and ANOC there as well.
Oh, okay.
And then later on in my career, I was stationed there for a couple of years, and I taught BNOC and ANOC.
That's awesome. Now, when you got done with that, did you go? My guess is you didn't go straight to Fort Riley.
No.
But where all were you stationed?
Well, my first duty station, I left Aberdeen Proving Grounds, and my first station was at Fort Polk when it used to be the Red Diamond. I don't know
Okay.
if you ever remember seeing that patch, but it was just a red diamond.
Yeah, I think I
Um,
remember seeing that.
yeah, so I was down there. It was about the time that they started integrating the M1 tanks and things like that. So it was kind of back in the day a little bit.
A little
We still had Jeeps,
bit.
um,
Wow.
and we still had boats. I don't know if you guys ever trained on boats, but we still had the boats.
Uh,
I remember fixing a few of them. And so I left Fort Polk. My dad was stationed in Hawaii during Vietnam, and my brother had visited there. So I was like, "Well, I'll reenlist if you get me Hawaii." Well, it took an arm and a leg, but they got me Hawaii. So I went there to Hawaii for about 4.5 years. I was up at Schofield Barracks in 45th Group out there, and for any of you guys that have been to Hawaii, K quad rules. They got all the areas split up into quads for the
oh, did they?
infantry and stuff, and I was in K quad, so there was usually some fights over what quad you were in at the
Okay.
NCO club, and there's usually some issues going on there, but. Yeah, Hawaii was good for me. I got to go to the Philippines, Thailand, Guam, went down to the Samoan Islands. So I traveled around there quite a bit. It was my first experience in a helicopter in the old Hueys.
Oh,
They didn't have the Apaches or the Blackhawks yet, so it was an old Vietnam Huey. And we did a map of the earth around the mountains, and I almost threw up my lunch doing that.
I
But
bet you did.
it's like I felt like I was falling out the stupid thing, but that was one of my highlights of there. But yeah, that was a good experience. Left there. Where the hell did I go after that? I went to Fort Benning, Georgia. I was up on Kelly Hill for 4 years plus, and then we moved down to Main Post. Did shitload of NTC rotation. I'm so tired of NTC. If I never see that place again, it wouldn't be soon enough. And
I am so happy somebody hates that damn place as much as I do. I could not. I would much rather be in Iraq than NTC by
well,
far.
to tell you how much I've been out there and drove around that place, do you know where the spring is at?
No.
There's a natural spring at NTC with actual water in it. and they got it all cordoned off and stuff. But I went over there and drank out of that spring. I probably could have got court-martialed for that, but yeah,
Yeah.
I mean that's how much I drove around that place.
I
It's
hated that place.
and in NTC, I can't remember who we were with, but we had a lieutenant in charge of the convoy. We were jumping sites, and he parked us right in the middle of the impact zone for the field artillery. And the freaking radios were going off left and right. Get the hell out of there! And yeah, he put the entire battalion, or yeah, we had most of a battalion that he parked right in the impact zone. So, and
Some of those LTs can be kind of special. I'm not going to name any names, but
I'm not going to say any, but they'll promote anybody.
we're going to get hell for that one. You
I
realize it,
know.
don't you?
I'm sure Jesse's emailing me right now.
Yeah, yeah. He'll be watching it tonight. His wife is going to be stopping into this area tomorrow, actually. So I'll get to see meet her, which is really cool.
That's cool.
Yeah. So from Hawaii, where'd you go?
So
Or
Hawaii,
Benning. I'm sorry.
Hawaii to Benning. Then I did my first tour in Korea. Went over there. It was actually the first for maintenance. We have different levels of maintenance. When I got to Korea, I was in a main support battalion, which is basically, it might as well be a service garage. It's I hated every minute of it because up to then I'd been attached to field artillery and infantry and just all armor units, and I had never been with an engineer unit yet. But and that's the thing with the engineers. With all the other branches, you have to learn what they do, and that's the way I was brought up. Is that when I was with armor, we had to go out there, shoot gunneries, all that stuff. When I was with infantry, I had to do mount training with them. When I was in Hawaii, kicking in doors, and I'm like, I'm supposed to be turning wrenches. What am I doing? Clearing buildings, and so things like that. And the same thing with the engineers. We went out with you when you guys were practicing demo charges and stuff like that. So it was good. I enjoyed it because I wasn't stuck in one rotation doing the same thing over and over.
Yeah.
But I left Korea on that first rotation. Went to Fort Campbell and was and jumped back into the line units. Got my air assault wings, did all that happy horse shit, and left there, went to Aberdeen, Maryland. I actually was getting really stressed out at Fort Campbell. They were 150 miles an hour every day, all day. And I was getting smoked. I was like, man, I can't take this. At that point, I was going to get out. I was at about the 10-year mark, and I went home on leave. And my dad basically told me, he was like, don't be a dumbass. You're halfway there. Just re-enlist, suck it up, and there's nothing out here for you. And so that convinced me. That's when I decided I was going to be a lifer, and went back. I put in my recruiter packet, and because I thought, what better way to chill out is to go be a recruiter, and I can lie with the best of them. So, so I was like, okay, I'll do that. Well, then I come down on orders to be an instructor at Aberdeen, and typical military crap. You want one thing, they send you to do another.
Yeah.
And so I went to Aberdeen, and I taught AIT for about 6 months. And then they moved me over to the FTX site, and then we were training BNOC and ANOC. So then at that time, I guess some of your other guys have talked about this. We were actually filling water buffaloes at the fire department, and one of the firemen come running out, and he was like, you got to get in here and see this. And so we were like, what the heck's going on? So we went inside, and the Twin Towers were on fire. Well, the one was, and we watched the other one hit, and we were like, holy crap. And then almost instantly they locked down the post because we were real close to them.
Yeah.
And whole post was locked down. Everybody had to get back to their units and stuff. And then became my escapade to get deployed. I mean, we had so many people volunteering. They were putting together units and stuff, and they had a wait list for us instructors because we were all like, "Screw this, we want to get out of here and
Yeah,
go fight the fight." And so they denied us. Well, then I came down on orders for Korea again. And I was like, what the hell? So I went to Korea again, got there, found out one of the maintenance units was deploying like 2 weeks later. I knew the guy that was the head maintenance guy. So I tried to swap spots with him so I could deploy with second ID. And boy, they went through the roof on that because I just got there. We spent all this money bringing you over here and we're not going to let you go. And I was like, who cares? We're all, in the same group. So that
yeah,
fell through. But I did get to go up on the DMZ. We tore down Gary Owen 47 Cav, and we did all that. So I did a bunch of other stuff there that I didn't do the first time. Then I left there, and then I came to Riley from there, and hated every minute of it till I got over to First Engineers.
really. Yeah, a part of me wishes sometimes that I was able to stay in
Hmm.
longer because you get to see the world.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, it's the only true way for normal people like me and you to get to see the world because I was from a small town as well. Now my small town wasn't as small as yours, but that was the only way I was going to get to see any other place other than the United States.
Yeah.
And I got to see it. I got to see Germany, Iraq, Kuwait, France. I got to go to France. That time after Iraq, when I went to Germany, was just filled with like probably some of the best moments in my life. Getting to go to Germany and
Hmm.
experiencing their culture and stuff, and then going to France. There's times when I wish that I could have stayed in to get to see places like Korea, um, and different places like that. But then there's days where I'm like, you know what? I'm glad I didn't stay in.
Well, one of the things I observed, and I kind of seen the same thing in Iraq a little bit, probably not to the extreme, but in a lot of them foreign countries, the older generation almost protects us, and the younger generation, just like what's going on here in the states, they don't understand what the previous generation has gone through to get them to where they're at. We used to have protests at the gate in Korea. The younger kids would come
Oh
up and
wow.
they'd, you guys need to get out of here and we hate you and all this other stuff. Well, we didn't have to do crowd control because the older generation of Koreans would come out with brooms and bats and chase the kids off because all of them remember during the Korean War and they remember
Yeah.
what we did for them. And that's the way it was explained to me is that they don't tolerate that stuff from the younger generation. And,
Wow.
and I kind of, I apply that to a lot of the places that, our forefathers have been,
Yeah.
that they understand and they lived it and they know what we did for them and they won't tolerate it. So,
Yeah. And I think the same thing when it. So I kind of view the same thing when it comes to like our Vietnam vets, though.
yeah.
Um, they got treated very badly when they came home,
Yeah.
and it's because of them that when we got home, we got thank yous. They didn't get that,
Yeah.
and I always make it a point when I see a Vietnam vet to tell them welcome home.
Hmm.
A lot of the times I won't even tell them I'm a veteran myself, um, because that's not important to me. That older generation, we're losing a lot of them now because they're getting older.
Yeah.
Um, those guys went through hell, man. They truly did.
And a lot of them still are because, like, I joined the local. We got a Purple Heart chapter here, and I joined there, and We had a couple of World War II veterans there, and a couple of Korea, and a bunch of Vietnam guys in there. And that's listening to their stories and hearing what they were all like, oh man, talking to me like we went through some crap. I was like, dude, we don't even compare to what you guys went through,
No, we don't.
and it just, but they're so humble that, they feel bad for me. And I'm like looking at them like, dude, I wasn't sleeping in a rice paddy.
Yeah, and fighting in a jungle.
Yeah.
I,
In the force on force, like in World War II, I was talking to this guy, and he was telling me some of the stuff that he's seen. I was like, man, I don't know. How did you deal with that? Just seeing this group of people coming at you, trying to kill you. And it's just like, how much ammo do I have?
yeah,
I can't even fathom that.
and that's the thing that I think a lot of people don't understand is like me and you both. If we were to sit down with a World War II vet, which I have too, and I'll tell you something, their stories are absolutely out of this world. And it's like, how in the hell did you deal with that kind of um, stress? Because it had to have been stressful, to be honest with you, because
Yeah.
you don't have a fob there. Well, you may have, but if you were an infantry soldier or whatever you were out in the city.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know, man. I love listening to their stories, though.
Well, we talk about camaraderie and how well we get along in our unit, but I was this one World War II guy. Uh, he he told me a story that when he got wounded, they shipped him. I can't remember if they said they shipped him to France for recovery. Well, he was just like you see in the movies. He said, I got out of that hospital. I couldn't take it. And he trekked himself through military units from like France all the way over through Belgium and somewhere else to catch up and find his unit. I'm like, dude, that's some dedication to your fellow soldier right there. But he said a lot of the guys did that. They didn't want to get put in another unit. They wanted to be back with their guys. And I was just like, dude, I couldn't even imagine being in a foreign country, hopping countries, trying to find my unit.
Oh, it would be awful. You know, I and again, I only served with one unit. Um, but I've said this before. If I had to do it all over again, if you gave me the exact same guys that we had, I'd do it over again in a heartbeat. Now with kids and stuff makes it a little bit different, but those I understand where they're coming from though. They know that person. They know that person has their six. That's hard to find.
Well, I found out from a friend through an email that I was a dad. That's how
Oh
I found
wow,
out my kid was born.
wow.
So yeah, I got an email and I just happened to open up. I was like, oh crap, I'm a dad. Cool. So she was,
Woo!
well, my daughter was born Halloween, October 31st in '06. And
Wow.
so a month after we got there, my daughter was born. So
That
she was about
that
6 or 7 months old before I seen her.
that had to have been hard though. The way that I look at it, you know that kid is there, and you want to see him so bad, but you
Yeah,
don't know. In the situations we were in, you don't know if you're ever going to get to see him because there were times, man. Well,
yeah.
hell, we'll get into that here in a second. That you just don't know if you're going to be able to come back, and that I don't know. I would have been able to have done it going over there knowing I had kids. Now, your situation's a little bit different where you got an email while you were over there and you're like, oh shit. But
Yes.
still,
Let me
yeah,
sign up for BAH real quick.
yeah, I know. First Sergeant, I need to do something real quick, right?
Yeah, I'll be right back.
Yeah. So, did you get deployed more than once to Iraq? You
No,
just did with us.
just with you guys. Yeah.
So let me ask you the same question I ask everybody. Do you remember our orders coming down and saying that we had to deploy? Do you remember what that felt like to you?
Um, I'm a weird duck. I was relieved. I said,
Or
fine. I basically thought to myself, finally, because see, the thing was where I was hopping around to while Iraq kicked off and all that stuff. Well, it goes back even farther than that. So when I was at Fort Polk when I first came in, do you remember Panama?
yeah,
The Panama 1 day conflict or whatever. Well, I was supposed to go to that, and they weren't. They I didn't go because one, I was a young soldier and wasn't the right MOS. Blah blah blah. So I did. I missed that. And then the Gulf War. During that time, I was at Fort Benning, Kelly Hill. We ramped everything up, and we were going to go. And then next thing we know, stand down, turn everything back in. You're not going. So my whole unit got disregarded for that one, which I was like, okay. And then also while I was at Fort Benning, Somalia, with the Ranger Bat. I had a bunch of buddies that were in the Ranger Bat and that deployed over there. And didn't get to go. I volunteered. I literally went to the Ranger Bat and talked to the sergeant major there. That was a scary experience.
I bet it was.
Oh fuck! I was shitting my pants. I was like, Sergeant Major, I just, can you use me? Can I go with you? And he would have taken me but I was the wrong MOS. He would have snagged me from my unit and took me. And so I had my heart set for that and didn't go. And then. Yeah, and then when Iraq kicked off, I mean, I was trying to go when I was at Aberdeen. I tried to go in Korea. When we got to 101st there at Fort Riley, you know, the first sergeant there was all amped up that we were going to go and stuff. And then next thing I know, I think they said we were on hold or something.
Yeah.
And then they brought up about, well, we're standing up first engineers, or we're, reconfiguring, and we need E7s. And I was like, put me on that list. I'm gone. and, and then, the side story to that is, Chris Lyon got me chewed out because he went, he skirted the system and worked his way over there. And I was pretty much blamed for him leaving. And because our first sergeant did not want to let him go. And so I was just like, wow, this guy. So we can get into that. But between Lyon and Longnecker, them two got my butt chewed more than once.
Yeah, there are things in life that surprise me, and then there's things in life that does not surprise me. Santa Claus and Longnecker, it just doesn't surprise me whatsoever.
Just normal, but no, it's I you know I really enjoyed, as soon as I was told I was going to first engineer. I got over there, and I you talk about a good group of guys. I mean, I couldn't, as a leader, I could not have lucked out any better than I did. We were talking in the chat room the other night with Dawson, Sergeant Dawson, and Mark Bruce was not assigned to anybody, and we were sitting over in battalion, and I was trying to get my story straight, but he was like, "Hey, nobody's picked up him yet. You better go get him." So I went into the battalion S1 and was like, "I want this dude," and they was like, "Okay, well, he ain't assigned to nobody, so you can have him." But I was accused many a times of stacking the deck with our maintenance team by my peers, that we had the pick of the litter, and I'd have to agree with them. I mean, those guys, if you want somebody to make you look good, those guys did it. Even amongst all the little problems and stuff, they're top notch mechanics, they're top notch soldiers. They I can't say enough good things about them. Every last one of them. I mean, even like I heard the interview with Chuck. I I would have done anything for Chuck to help him through. He was a good kid. He did some stuff. I got a few stories that make me chuckle with him, but but it just all of them. Even down to Sergeant Bornfriend. Nobody's kind of mentioned his name, but he was pretty much the meat and potatoes there in the maintenance team, because he did all the PLL stuff, and he was a smart cookie. I mean, that guy knew his stuff. He knew what to do, and all that stuff makes me look good. Makes me look like I know what I'm doing, and
Yeah.
and so I had the pick of the litter. I mean, there's just no two ways about it. So
Yeah, and that, like I've said this a million and one times, that maintenance platoon was amazing. You had some guys that were knew what the hell they were doing, but then if they went out with you,
yeah,
you knew that you were going to get somebody that wasn't going to just hide and not want to go outside the truck.
yep,
They were going to lay down uh, rounds as well as much as you were.
yeah.
You don't get that very much, and we
No.
got lucky to
I've
have you guys with us.
I mean, I was pretty much half of my career. I was a platoon sergeant, and I would say by far, and I had some really good guys through the years. But that team I had over there in Iraq, I just, I put them on the top. And yeah, maybe because we were in a combat zone, but
Could be.
uh, you know, but the thing of it was is yeah, if I asked somebody to do something, I could rely on them it to get done,
Yeah,
and they would do it to the best of their ability. So that's all I asked from them.
yeah. Um, Last night, we had that long talk, but my first recollection of Iraq, like holy shit, we're in a war zone, was when I seen like the burqas and like, just the third world country coming from a small town. Did I know what you're going to say to this just because we talked about it yesterday, but before we get into that part of it, did that shock you too? Because you're from well, I don't know that it would have shocked you as much as it did me because you had seen Korea and stuff
Mhm.
like that.
Yeah.
Did it shock you with like the third world, like the way it looked?
Not really, because through the countryside in Thailand, Chuck can probably tell you, and in spots of Korea. I'm trying to think, even in the Samoan Islands, all the way down there by Australia, just the rudimentary, living conditions. I will have to say Iraq was probably one of the dirtiest I've been in.
Yeah,
Just with they had their trash points right on the outside of the city,
yeah,
and stuff like that, and just kind of the poverty level that was there. I had seen that before, but yeah, it was a little bit different seeing. I hate to be this way, but just not knowing who the enemy was is horrible. It just be well. You've mentioned about the interpreters. I talked to them, and they said were telling me they even had problems because if they didn't speak the right dialect, they would get shot. It's like really, and but that was the truth of it.
yeah.
So it just it didn't shock me much, but yeah, it I don't know. It just some of it bothered me a little bit just because just how poor they were and how they were living and stuff. It just kind of, and then always the fear of something happening. At any moment they could have their door kicked in, and we've heard stories and
Yeah.
some closer to home that they snag up some 12-year-old kid and say, "Hey, go out there and take care of those American troops, or your family's gone." And just living in that fear, that has to do something to somebody.
Yeah, yeah, and you bring up a really good point that I don't think a lot of people realize that weren't didn't get to go over to Iraq and see Iraq and stuff like that. I don't think people realize that when we invaded Iraq, we tore down their borders, and then they started having an insurgent problem. They would cut off main supply routes, and then what they would do is they would pay like your old farmers, 80 years old, 12 years old, to go place these
Yeah.
IEDs. I don't think people realize that these people, they didn't. I don't know if I would classify them as terrorists, to be honest with you. It was an ultimatum. Either you
Mhm.
do this or we're going to kill you or and your family. So
Right.
what the hell do you do?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to go place an ID. I don't want anybody to die. And then a lot of the times, if they got caught, because we had drones up in the sky even then,
Yeah.
um, it's a tough situation, man.
That it is.
Yeah.
Uh,
So
well, I
did you
but
have a time in Iraq? And I know the answer to this, but I think it's important to share this. Um, did you have a time in Iraq where it was like, holy shit, this is real? I'm in a war zone.
yeah, the initial one that I didn't tell you about because I was saving it because it's not really a big deal. But during the Buffalo incident, I remember we were out there cordoned off that road, and we had cars stacked up all the way from that corner all the way to the Callis corner. Once you
Oh,
come out of the city and made that left,
yeah,
and there was cars stacked up there, and I remember walking over there, and I can't remember who it was that was standing there. They was like, "Hey, Sergeant, that car keeps leapfrogging, trying to get up closer. What am I supposed to do?" And I was just, at that moment, I was like, "Oh crap, ROE," and I was like, "Okay, well, if they keep coming, you're going to have to put around, doing the hill, what is it, hill kill thrill or whatever the hell they call
yeah,
that." I was like, "You're going to have to walk through the steps," and they were just looking at me like, okay, like, you really want me to shoot this car? And I was like, if they keep coming, they're going to feel the wrath. And um, I did want to say, to my knowledge, that whole Buffalo incident was caused by a 20 amp fuse. That's what disabled that Buffalo.
but you guys didn't know though.
We
I
had
mean,
no clue. And just like Jesse was saying, we had no clue how to rig those things up. And plus, it had the RPG cage on it, which made it even more top heavy. But yeah, simple, stupid fuse. But that was the breakdown between Mantech and us because a lot of that information wasn't getting shared to us. So we had no idea how to fix it. We just, you know, troubleshoot it the best we can, can't figure it out. So, all right, well, we're going to trek through hostile territory for 30, 40 miles to go to Anaconda to see if they can fix it. It's like, just fly somebody down here, would you?
yeah, and you have to realize we were Anaconda was very close to us. It was right across the river, but when you talk about night and day,
Hmm.
it was truly night and day. That route to Anaconda, any other time was very quiet. You really didn't see too much going on down that way. You go down the other way though, you make a left instead of a right,
Yeah. Yeah.
you're in the shit, man.
The Callis traffic circle must have been a sacred shrine or something. I don't know what the hell, but I mean, it was intact. There wasn't no, I think there was a couple IEDs that were put there, but yeah, for the most part, it was still intact. So, but, uh, but yeah, so that kind of woke me up. But as a leader, my first ah shit moment, and as a leader was with like we were talking, was with Dan. When Longnecker came back from that patrol, that ambush patrol that he talked about, when he came back, the RG was smoking, and when he pulled in, I walked up to the back of it, and when he opened that look on his face was just like, holy shit, what the hell
Yeah,
just happened to you? And I remember him getting out of there, and he wasn't the same Dan that I had sent out on the mission. He
yeah,
he I probably haven't ever seen that look on anybody's face before, but yeah, it rattled him, and I at that point I was like, I'm not going to send my guys out on another mission without me. There's no way. And sorry, John and Chris, but thanks for being supportive of me having to go outside the wire so much. Uh, but but yeah, I drug them two along with me. But yeah, even when, like Jesse was talking about, we tried to rotate out. I would prefer. I preferred that I went instead of Lieutenant Hunyon or Sergeant Esteban or any of the, I just, in my mind, I didn't want my guys out there without me. So,
If anybody knows Longnecker, to see a look on his face and the way that he reacted after that, that should tell you how bad of a situation they were in down there. Because this is a guy that if you don't know him, and now I've gotten to know him now, okay, and he's one of the best guys, has the biggest heart in the world. He actually called me yesterday and gave me some numbers to some guys in my squad, which just out of the blue, and I got to speak to his mom as well about 2 or 3 weeks ago. But Longnecker is one of those guys who will tell you exactly what he thinks.
mm-hmm.
And a lot of the times he got mistaken for an asshole. And there were times when he could be an asshole, but hell of a guy. Hell of a
Yeah,
guy.
hell of a
Love
guy.
him to death, man.
Yeah.
So for him to react like that, and then him also being a little bit older as well, that just goes to show you the situation that they were in.
Yep. And so after that point, it was pretty much, yeah. If there was a mission that we needed to go out on, we went. And 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 it's not to take away from any of the other guys because I drugged them along with me too.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I just I couldn't envision it. I just had to be out there, and I don't know if it's a control thing or, what it is, but I couldn't see my guys going through that crap without me. So, and
Yeah.
I caught a lot of shit from my peers about going out the wire so much. A lot of them asked me, why do you keep going out? And, what do you need to do that for? And I just shrug them off. I'm like, if you don't understand, then I can't help you. And so
Good leadership.
yeah, well, I'm not much on praise.
Well, I know you're not,
I
but
just want to do the right thing.
you my the guy I looked at as a leader was Sergeant Smith because he was out there with us all the time, right? And we've talked about this before. He put himself in front of us so many times.
Mm-hmm.
And there were times when the Talon wouldn't work and he low crawled to a blast crater. Now, I don't think that was very smart. I actually have pictures of him doing that. And we were laughing in the vehicle. Like, we're laughing at this, man, not knowing if there's an IED in there. We're just laughing. And I think it was more of a nervous laugh, like, holy shit,
yeah.
this might end up bad. But then you had what we talked about last night was he wouldn't let anybody touch Sergeant Wright's vehicle. He wouldn't let anybody touch Sergeant Wright and Leonard's vehicle when it was up there at Anaconda. He did it himself.
Yeah.
He wouldn't let anybody from our squad do it.
Yeah.
So I say that because you putting yourself out there with your guys, it shows the leadership.
Yeah.
It really does. So were there, there were some moments out there in Iraq that stand out to me, but what stands out to you like funny moments? Besides me jumping in the dam by the burn barrel.
Unfortunately, I wasn't out there at the burn barrel when you did that, so I missed that whole thing. I don't know. Well, one of them, it just, I don't know why it makes me laugh, but we were driving down the road and Chris had put that ice cream speaker on our Humvee, and we were driving down the road and we stopped and this guy was walking across the road and he turned on the ice cream music and that guy started dancing. It was like, are you kidding me? We're in the middle of a war zone and he's playing ice cream music and this guy's like, duh, 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 duh,
oh gosh, man.
Oh my God. And I was like, so, that was pretty funny. And then Chuck, like I said, I had a story about him, but one of them, we were on our on the clip. I think we were heading up to Spiker towards the end, and there was a guy probably 3,000 yards out in the field plowing the field, and Chuck comes over the speaker. He's like, "Can I shoot him? Can I shoot him?" And I'm like, "Dude, and he starts laughing. It's like, come on, man. And
Yeah,
he's like,
yeah.
"Oh, I'm just kidding." Okay, well, don't freak me out like that. It's like, stop it. And but uh, one of them that I think, well, nobody knows. When after I got hit, I was down at the aid station, and they gave me some morphine. And tell you one of the most embarrassing times. They had to take my pants and everything off, and the chaplain is standing at the end of the table, and so my Johnson's laying on the fucking gurney, and with a female chaplain standing right there staring, and I'm just like, why me? Why? I screw the hole in my leg. Why do you have to have a female chaplain stand there looking at my junk?
Oh my god.
And then God, I can't remember the colonel. He come in, and he walked around the table, and he's like, "How you doing, Sergeant?" And I was like, "Oh, it's just a flesh wound." And if you don't know, I'm a big Monty Python fan, and
Yeah.
in that scene where the guy gets his arms and legs chopped off, and he's like, "Oh, it's just a flesh wound." Well, I said that to him, and I started laughing. Nobody else in there got it, and I was just like, "Screw it! Just give me some more morphine. I'll just go to sleep."
Can
So,
can you go over because if you don't know, Sergeant Hartman actually has a Purple Heart from being hurt over in Iraq, and can you kind of go over that situation with us? Because up until about probably like 3 or 4 weeks ago, I didn't know that people were supposed to be in that bay.
well, I guess I have to back up a day. What was it? The 23rd of April. Me, Chris Lyon, John Macaluso, Mark Bruce, Dan Longnecker, we were tasked to go out to off of Route Donkey. They had that dump truck V bid that
Oh
collapsed
yeah.
that building on. It was an 82nd Airborne outpost, and that was their central area. Well, they had a double V bid hit and collapsed the building on them. So we loaded up with a couple of the medic doctors to go out there because and basically just to provide aid, whatever. Anyway, we got out there, we helped dig out everything there, and then after that was done, we set up a defensive barrier for them there. That's why we had to take the end loader out there. We had a couple civilian trucks with us. The biggest thing that I remember from that, and I'm sorry, First Cav, but you can eat shit and die because they bailed on us. They were supposed to be our escort back, and they bailed, and we had to go through that checkpoint. And I remember them saying that you guys always got shot at. It was an IP checkpoint, and you guys always encountered something there. So here I am with one Humvee gun truck and an end loader and some civilian trucks, and I'm supposed to protect that entire convoy, and so at the end, they were all there, and their commander came out and said, "Well, you guys taking off?" And I said, "Well, I got to wait for an escort because I'm not going to run that route with just what I have." And he had a couple of his guys hop in their Humvees and load up and help escort us back after they had spent all day digging out their friends. And John and Chris and Dan and Mark were all in that pile helping pull rubble off. So that's the way we spent that entire day, night. We got back the morning of the 24th, and then I think we went to sleep, got something to eat, whatever, and then we got down to the motor pool late. And when I went down there, I don't remember who asked me for sure, but I just know that somebody asked me, "Hey, can we let the guys go? There's nothing to do. There's no reason for them to be here." And I was like, "Yeah, get them out of here." And literally, they left. Sergeant Dawson was he was sitting looking up some stuff on the computer,
Yeah.
and I was in the other area, and it's kind of, I know you've been through this. You hear the flash, or you hear the flash or whatever, and the boom, and then everything goes pitch black. Don't see nothing. I've got spotty memory. I've tried to make it up in my mind on what happened, but I know I was on the floor. I know I got up somehow. Uh, and somehow during all this stuff, I put on my flak vest, which I don't even remember doing that. Uh, but I remember this private come flying through the door and screaming, "Is there anybody in here?" And I just started cussing at him. I was just like, "Get the F out of here. Shut the hell up. Whatever."
Yeah.
And, but right before I did that, I come around the corner because I was so petrified because I fully expected to see Sergeant Dawson gone. And I went around there, and the base plate of that mortar went right through right where he was sitting. There was a huge hole in the floor right where he was at, and I was just like, "Holy crap!" And then the rest of it's kind of a little bit of a blur. I remember the medic coming down, and I think he asked me to take my belt off to get, because there was blood on my leg or something. And when I went to grab my belt, my hands were like shaking like that. I couldn't even grab it. And that's when it dawned on me. It was like, holy crap, what happened? And
Yeah.
so the funny part of that whole thing is that after all this was over with, I walked down to the motor pool after they patched me up, went down there. First sergeant followed me down there.
Oh
And you
God.
know how Yoke is. He walked down there and he come up and he kind of tapped me on the shoulder and he was like, "I think I'm going to make you my driver." And I just looked at, I was like, "The hell you are." And he was like, and he literally looked at me. He's like, "You got to be the luckiest son of a bitch I've ever met in my life." And I
Yeah.
was just like, and I was looking through the bay and it was just
Yeah.
holes everywhere. And then, at that point, then, of course, you order the shoulda, coulda, wouldas. And I was like, man, if my guys were here, I would have lost half my platoon today. And so it was an eye opener. I'll tell you that.
I'll, I'll tell you this: we were really fortunate. We really were. Yeah. There were times we talk about the Sergeant Wright and Leonard situation,
Yeah.
um, which was I think it was difficult on every one of us. But as much contact as we got into, and how hot Bakuba was at that time, I think we were fortunate
Yeah.
to and I hate to say it that way because I don't mean it to sound like, well, we only lost one person. But if you understood how much contact we came into every single day, hey, we are fortunate. We are.
Well, I know I talked to you about this a little bit last night, and I hate to say it, feels kind of like taboo,
Yeah.
and but I Sergeant Wright had a big effect on everybody. I mean, whether he knew him or not, or we just seen him in passing, uh, that guy, it was never so clear to me. But when we did the ceremony down at the gym, and we did the last call stuff,
Oh God.
that hurt. I mean, that got to a lot of people, and I think a lot of people were trying not to think it was true, or trying not to come to terms with what happened. And but then when we did that ceremony, that got a lot of people.
It put it into perspective.
Yeah.
Like it made it real because it's not that it wasn't real. It just I don't know how to explain it. It's weird. It just made it feel like how like when you go to a funeral here and you don't really know the person, but you're like, oh, okay, they're gone, and then you
Hmm.
go and all those emotions come to you, and that's what it was like over there. And I have never been through like the last roll call or whatever. I forget what exactly it's
Yeah.
called. It's hard to stand in formation when that happens.
Oh,
It
yeah.
it was
Yeah.
difficult.
Yeah, and and I mean, I'm willing on a one-on-one if anybody needs information because I mean, except for the initial incident and the heroics that went on there, and and the stuff that happened, and when that happened, I was part of all the recovery from out there at the site to out at Fob Normandy, and went through that whole process, taking it all the way to Anaconda. I know it all, and there's some things afterwards that I talk to you about, but I'll refrain.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just God, it just you really it makes the guy think. It really does, and I hate that it happened to such a nice guy. To be honest, it just it was he was a good NCO too.
He he was a really good he'd make you laugh a
Yeah.
lot. And I think that that's what sticks out in my mind when it comes to Sergeant Wright. One of the best memories I have of him was when we were at NTC, and he was in my squad at that time, and then after NTC he moved over to Wash's squad. Well, he was in the rear vehicle, and he was trying to relay that he had a vehicle coming up on his six to the whole convoy. If you don't know Sergeant Wright was Jamaican.
Just a
So when
little
he
bit.
got excited, you couldn't understand a damn thing this man said. It's probably the funniest moment in NTC that I had of him. But he was also a great guy as well because right before we left for NTC, we went over to Lieutenant Bolton's house. He had a party, and I had way too much Goldschlager that night. And
You can't
Sergeant
cash in the
Wright,
gold.
what'd you say?
You can't cash in the gold.
No, you can't. Sergeant Wright got my car back, got me up to my room, I think he fireman carried me up to the room and then put me in bed and then came back the next morning. I think we left. I had to be up at like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning or something like that. Got me up, got me down to the weapons draw. Still wasn't all there. I ran my M6. Well, I'm not going to. Never mind on that part of it because
We'll hold the negligent discharge conversation for another
no,
time.
when that I ran an M16 down somebody's sob.
At least you didn't shoot a Hesco barrier.
Oh god, I was lying, wasn't it?
No, it was the gunner.
No.
Me and Chris looked at each other like that
Oh
was
man.
not supposed to happen.
You
So
know it sucks. You have to deal with
yeah,
things like that over there, man.
it just yeah, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
So I mean, when you think about it, but yeah, oh yeah, I was going to tell you on Operation House Call. I know you guys talked about that probably enough, but something that wasn't brought up, and we talked about it in the group chat was those kids playing soccer while we're blowing up that building. It's like, dude, don't you know there's a war going on? You guys kids need to go somewhere else and play soccer.
Yeah. You know that I was gonna. I remember you saying that too, but you know another thing about Sergeant Wright. Now that you said soccer, that I think needs to be said because
Yeah.
think people need to know his character as well.
Mhm. Yep.
Sergeant Wright had a bunch of soccer balls. Maybe were you ahead of this convoy? Were you in that convoy
Which one?
where he was giving away the soccer balls to the kids?
Uh, I'm trying to remember. I probably I don't know. I doubt it. I'm thinking not because I would have remembered that. Like we talked before, I can remember everything about Iraq, but I can't remember what I ate for dinner.
Same.
So
I'm the same exact way. Uh, he had soccer balls sent to him, and he would stop the convoy and he would get out of his vehicle and he would give these soccer balls away to the kids. But he also used to do that with shoes and clothes and stuff like that. When you talk about a good human being, he
Well, isn't
was.
there? There's a picture somewhere of him handing all the kids are around him, and he's handing out stuff to them.
I might have that. Do you have that?
I don't know if I still have it or not, but I'm sure Carton probably has it in his massive
Google. Yeah,
portfolio.
I'm gonna go through it and see if I can. And if I can find it, I will put it on this video because I haven't went through Sergeant Wright too much. It's kind of a
I
touchy
noticed.
subject.
Yeah, it
It's
is.
hard. Uh, but it was a part of our deployment, and I think that was a turning point for all of us that we're not invincible.
Yeah, and I
And
think uh, the guys that were closest to him and that were there and were his friends and stuff. I think talking about him should it could help them in a way, to know that we thought so highly of him and that we felt so bad when we lost him, and just knowing what kind of impact he had outside of the military, just personal feeling. Like I said, just you don't feel that way about piece of crap guys. I mean, you feel that
right.
way about good quality guys that have more to offer than just NCO stripes. You
Yeah,
know, and I think that's the way most people feel about Sergeant Wright. And
yeah. You know, I I hope one day his family sees this because
yeah,
I think coming from somebody that I'm in a unique position because I've lost a family member over there before I joined, and you want to hear these stories from their time over there because they can't tell them. Um, and I've said it before. I said it on the rally point. I think Helmut's wife is another one, and his kids. When she said his kids were listening to these, that meant a lot to me,
yeah,
and I'm sure it means a lot to you guys as well. That you can tell that story to his kids for him. You know what I mean?
yeah.
It's cool. So you get out of Iraq. First of all, is there any other stories that kind of stick out in your mind in
Well,
Iraq?
it's through recent conversations and issues that have been kind of popping up here and there through the group chat and stuff. One thing that really bothers me on the leadership side is that, and I don't think anybody knows about it or even realized it was going on, but during that gas attack, we had gone to the bunker because of that rocket that hit back by by the Georgians. I was standing outside the bunker and I seen that cloud coming at us, and I just thought it was fallout from the rocket,
Yeah,
and then the mass panic as soon as that chlorine hit us and nobody could breathe. I mean, you stopped breathing like that. I mean, you couldn't inhale, you couldn't exhale. I got a face full of it and I took off and I got back to my tent and I was, the thing that stands out in my mind was that I was on my knees just looking at the top of my rucksack and I froze. I completely, I don't know where my head was at, but I can't remember if it was Sergeant Bornfriend or Sergeant Esteban. Somebody come over and tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Hey, you all right, Sergeant?" And then I snapped out of it, found my mask, put it on, and came out. But in that moment, the thing that bothers me was that I forgot how to be a leader. I should have been out there guiding the guys, calling them down, doing whatever, even though there wasn't much I could do. It was just, one of the things is like a failure on my part. I froze and it was just, it was insane, but you talk about military bearing and everything going out the window. When that gas hit, it was game on. There was nobody saying, "Excuse me, Sergeant, I got to get through."
yeah. Get
it
the hell out
was,
of my way.
yeah,
Yeah,
it was just complete like roaches scattering in the light. Everybody was trying to scramble and finding their mask, and doing that stuff. And that sticks in my head. It's a little thing, but I just keep thinking to myself, like, man, I locked up. I froze. I could not think until somebody tapped me on the shoulder or pushed me on the shoulder and said, "Hey, you all right?" And then I snapped out of it. So, but yeah, that was a good one. And then I know you heard in the chat groups that when I went to the VA here, they asked me if I'd ever been around chemicals, and I checked yes. Well, then I got a call, and hey, you need to come in and see the whatever they call them people, and they were like, "What chemicals were you around?" And I said, "Well, we had a chlorine V bid, and we had chlorine gas and stuff." And they're like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, and I gave them the date, everything. I had a little folder with me with an old newspaper clipping of the chemical, and they hadn't heard anything. It wasn't in their records. They didn't know nothing about it. And they were basically calling me a liar until I showed them that thing. And I'm just like, really? I was like, okay, well, but and some of the guys might be experiencing it, but like if I leave a dish rag on my sink too long and it starts getting that chlorine smell to it,
Yeah.
I flip out. I mean, I don't go crazy or anything, but I just like, man, we got to wash that. And my wife thinks I'm nuts. She's just like, "What are you smelling?" And I'm like, "You don't smell that chlorine." And so I get it. Guys
Yeah.
don't like going swimming in pools that are chlorine right now because of that smell. And I got a foot locker that I've had locked, and I can open that and still smell musty chlorine in that foot locker. It's in my garage. I don't ever open it because all my stuff in there, and it's all my stuff from Iraq. I haven't opened it in probably 10 years, just
Wow.
sitting there. So, but yeah, so aside from that, yeah, we had some good times.
We did. I think Cahill was saying the same thing about the chlorine. I think because I knew that I knew it had to have burnt like hell. That's what everybody was saying. It just burnt like hell. I was fortunate on that day because I was out on mission. We didn't know what the hell was going on. But I could see where the smell of chlorine would kind of you would stay away from it.
It sticks with
So,
you. Well, it's just like when after I got blown up, I didn't realize it, but I was standing in doorways. I would never stand in the middle of a room. I'd always stand under the joist of the door for protection. And I didn't,
oh
I
wow,
think a few people made fun of me about it. And then the the sound, the low muffle sound, like if you shut the hood of your car
yep.
and it just that low boom like that, I'll turn my head and look and be like, okay, it's stupid, and I feel like an idiot because it's like, come on, man, you got blown up one goddamn time. Are you kidding me?
But
So
it's not the fact that you got blown up one time. It's the fact of how everything that goes along with that, right?
yeah,
So I think the one thing that kind of shocked me, which I didn't know, was that everybody was supposed to be out there that day. I had always wondered, and you talk about putting pieces together. That was the part that I was always wondering why were you the only one there? Because if you knew anything about these guys, everybody was always out there. There was multiple people out there,
constantly,
and that's the reason why. But you pieced it together for me, and now I can see why that bothers you because bother the hell out of me. You talk about dropping the hood on something, same thing.
yeah,
That it's that low boom.
hmm
That's that gets me too. That it's that sound, and it's a unique sound, but it'll get me too. So
yeah. So I mean, just like anybody, and we didn't get 30 mortars a day out there, but just every now and then we get a couple random
yeah,
ones in. And I know we got into a habit of, if one mortar came in, two came in, we didn't care.
yeah,
But that day of the gas attack, we had several mortars, and then them rockets hit, and everybody's like, okay, they're playing for real. Let's get to the bunkers, just in case. And then
yeah,
all hell broke loose. So I remember standing in the motor pool, and I think I was with Sergeant Esteban, and we were talking, and there was a mortar that came in and landed. It was a couple hundred yards from us. We didn't even move. We were just
yeah,
like,
yeah.
no, okay, it wasn't close. And
Yeah,
it was, and I was just like, now that I think back on it, I was like, how stupid am I? You know, and it's like Cahill talked about that sniper after the Husky got blown up. I was
yeah.
standing out in the middle of the road. It's like, what are you doing, idiot? And I'm thinking about this stuff after the fact. It's just like, where was my freaking head at?
It goes back, and I did stupid stuff too. But I always remember First Sergeant Yoke telling us not. I know, man. But you know, if you if you listen to him, even though he was very, I don't even know how to
You had to experience
decipher
Yoke
everything he
to
says. He
appreciate
used to, yeah, he who's confused. He used to always say he would don't get complacent.
it. Yeah,
And I think we did for a while. We thought there for a while we were invincible, and we just weren't.
yeah,
But
yeah.
we also had a damn good time
But
doing all this.
the whole proof of it, and we talked about this, the whole proof of it, well, like I told you, I found that news articles that said there was 2 to 3 thousand insurgents in Bakuba, trying to get us. And then, when that striker unit showed up, that is proof to me that it was pretty rough there, because they went down there all cocky. We're going to tear stuff up and show the 72nd how we're going to do stuff.
Yeah,
And they came back with their tail between their legs with a lot of lost people and equipment.
I
And
remember that day like it was yesterday. Uh, I remember being at the chow hall and seeing these guys just show up, and we were in Baghdad.
yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, dude, I remember pulling them to the side and being like, listen, I understand you guys were in Baghdad. I get it. You probably seen some shit there. Be careful out there because and that's what drives me so nuts. And people don't realize how hot Bakuba was. They have no idea whatsoever
No.
how bad that place was. So much so that when I asked Wash, and I told you this, was Ramadi worse than Bakuba? Because he had been to both. Nowhere near as hot as Bakuba was. That's not taking anything away from if you served in Ramadi, anything like that.
Mhm.
Ramadi is in Fallujah. Um, I've heard a lot about that.
Yeah.
I haven't heard a damn thing about Bakuba, and that's one of the reasons why I want to do this
Well,
so badly.
I know we're running short on time, but real quick, before we deployed, when we were doing our briefings with the FRG and all that other stuff, I remember we were in some room and they brought up a map and was like, okay, 41st is going here, 72nd's going here, it's still, and I remember them saying that first and second platoon and the FMT were going to Warhorse. And I wish to God I could remember who was standing next to me. I heard him say, "Oh shit," you know. And I kind of looked at him. I was like, "What's wrong with Warhorse?" And he just was like, "Good luck." I was just like, "Dude, thanks. I'm getting ready to go there." But it just is kind of the reaction. I'm probably over exaggerating that a little bit, but uh, he, he was like, "Oh shit." And
I,
I'm like, what's going on at Warhorse? And he was just like, it's kind of rough, because it used to be Camp Warhorse, and it was probably smaller than it was when we were there. But
yeah.
yeah, he was, I guess he had heard or been there or something, but he wasn't overly excited about going.
Sergeant Smith, I remember being in Kuwait, and when we got, because we didn't know where we were going in Iraq until we got to Kuwait, and I think it took a week or two for us to get to know where we were going in Iraq. And he came into the tent and he was like, "Okay." He maybe he was telling Sergeant Buck. I was close with Sergeant Smith, so a lot of the stuff I heard from him, and he just said he was like, it's bad where we're going.
Yeah,
And so I remember that clear as day. It was bad, man.
Yeah,
and
and then it got worse after they did that push through Baghdad and
Baghdad.
pushed everything up to us.
Yeah,
So,
actually, one of the I was watching a documentary. I don't know if you guys are into documentaries, but I love them. Uh, there was I think he was the number one wanted terrorist outside of Osama bin Laden. Um, on the top 10 list, he might have been second. He was actually killed in Bakuba.
yeah, I
And
remember that.
Al Zahar, I don't remember who it was, but he was a bad one, man.
Name this long.
Yeah, I can't pronounce it. I can't pronounce that. Where's an interpreter when you need one, right?
Exactly. Where's Chucky when we need him?
Oh God, probably shooting out a porthole and blowing up somebody else's weapon like he did Greenwood's. Do you remember?
I heard about that.
Greenwood's M16. What happened was he was shooting out that porthole, grabbed a hold of the weapon, starts shooting out the porthole. The porthole closed and he shot, and that thing split like a banana. And it couldn't have happened to somebody. Greenwood loved that M16. He
Yeah.
loved it, and he just grabbed a hold of it. And I will always remember the look on his face when we seen that weapon. We were all laughing our asses off. He fucking hated it, man. we had some really good times, man. But
Yeah, and and that's just the nutshell. I mean, I could probably tell
yeah,
stories for about the next 5 hours on hit a different topic or a different situation every time. So,
yeah, and I think what I'm gonna do, and I've been talking about it last week. Last weekend was kind of rough on me because of the kids and stuff. But what I think I'm going to start doing is on Sunday nights, I'm going to bring in like a panel of you guys, and I'm going to get reactions to like the interviews. I think that because I think what's going to end up happening is we're going to start remembering more stuff.
hmm
And I think you guys are going to be able to tell more of the story, and I think it's going to be more impactful. Got to figure out how to do it, and I think I got it figured out. But I think it's going to be more impactful because we can talk all day about this kind of stuff.
yeah.
So
Well, the two things I want to make sure that everybody that watches this knows is that Chris Lyons, First Sergeant Lyon, uh, he put every pothole on my side of the truck,
of
and
course
and I still have a limp from when Chief smacked me in my leg that had fresh bandages on
they will know that tomorrow. I'm going to put that in the trailer. I got to look at the timestamp on that so I can find it.
it. 126.
There we go. Hey, we get out of Iraq.
Yeah.
You didn't get out too much longer after we got out, did you?
No, I pretty much had the general consensus from my wife and newborn that I was over 20 years. I didn't make the list. It's time to go, and they didn't really want to go through. Something that we don't talk about at all is that phone call that your parents get when you go get wounded or whatever. And I do feel bad. My wife was moving at the time, and so they called my dad. And of course, with him being prior military, as soon as you say, "Hey, somebody from the Pentagon's calling you about your son," I can't imagine what went through his head, until he found out that I was stable,
Yeah.
and was able to call him. But yeah. So anyway, I got out and retired and came to back to Illinois, and primarily came back here because of the school benefits and stuff
Yeah.
that they offered veterans. This state sucks, but it's good for veterans, or halfway good if you can get around all the taxes we pay. Sorry, my
No, 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 no.
political
You're
side
totally
coming
fine.
out. But yeah, I came back here, and then that's when the whole process with the VA started. I got in a little bit of trouble working a civilian job, put my hands on somebody, and they made a few comments to me I didn't like, and then I had to go to anger management, and through that process. Got with the Purple Heart guys and all those Vietnam guys. They were like, "Hey, you need to go apply and do all this stuff." And kind of pushed me towards that. And then I eventually, Chief Hunter, he stopped by my house here because we live about an hour and a half away from each other. And he told me, he was like, don't feel embarrassed. Go, the money's there. Don't be stupid, and don't feel embarrassed about getting some sort of disability from the VA, because that's what the VA was pushing on me, and I didn't want to do that because I didn't feel, I'm like the rest of the guys. I didn't feel anything was wrong. I didn't feel like I deserved anything from the military, and last bit of side note, I'm actually a little bit embarrassed about the Purple Heart thing because, with Leonard, I know he doesn't give a shit, but it just, we both got hit in the same spot, and I'm still functioning with
Yeah.
my original. So it's a little bit of an embarrassment for me, because I compare myself to what happened to him, and I know he's doing good, and I'm glad to see he is. He's a good guy. Uh,
Oh,
he
I
can
love that
he
guy
can
to
start
death.
some shit with the best of them.
Oh, I
But
I, I love that guy to death. Every time well, the one thing I love about what we're doing here is I haven't seen some of these guys, most 99.9% of them in 20 years. And the last 2 months, I've seen two that have came through Ohio, and I've got to sit down and talk to them. It's been amazing. It
yeah,
really has. And
well,
if
like
we don't get anything else out of it, it's very healing to me to just get to sit down with you guys and be able to just talk. And I think that that's the greatest thing in the world. I really do.
we're at an hour and a half again, man. 3 nights in a row.
Yeah. Well, listen, I got the one last question for you, and I have actually enjoyed. I didn't know half of this stuff. Even talking to you the last 2 nights, I didn't get to hear some of the stuff that I got to hear tonight, which is great. I love hearing your guys' perspective. But um, if you could give one piece of advice to a soldier that's going through a tough time with the PTSD, things he's seen or she has seen, what would that piece of advice be to that soldier?
Well, the first and foremost thing is that I've seen, and I've been through the VA system and sat in meetings and shrinks, and uh, them trying to peddle drugs to me and all that other stuff. I think, one, you got to come to a realization that you have an issue, whether that's through somebody saying, "Hey, dude, your head's not right," or if it's just you suddenly realizing something's going on. You have to understand what's going on, and no matter how tough you are, how whatever, I've heard it said on here a couple times, you're a changed person. And that things
Yeah.
are not going to be the same for you. And the more you shun that, the more you try to, and I'm sorry, medicate yourself out of it or drink yourself out of it, it's still going to be there the next day. And so seeking counseling, uh, coming on this chat room, I mean, seriously, just talking to people about your issues, what you're feeling, what's going on, uh, and even if it's something of, I don't know how to do this. Well, you've got a lot of knowledge and a lot of people that are in this circle that can guide you and be like, hey, okay, your VA in this city sucks. Go to the VA in the next city. You know,
Yeah.
do something. There's support groups. There's everything there, and especially, it kind of hurt a little bit when I listened to Chuck when he said that he didn't deserve to be a combat veteran. And, I will throw up the bullshit flag right now. Everybody that stepped foot in ground over there, I don't care if you were processing leave forms or if you were moving water from one location to another, you were there. Uh, the just understand that the problem comes when you try to oh my gosh, I move water, so I'm 100% disabled because I moved this hot bottle of water and had to drink it. Give me a break. I don't need to one up the next guy.
Yeah.
And through my VA experiences, I've seen a lot of that, believe it or not, and it's kind of disheartening. The people need help, but admit what's going on with you and get some help. And you talked about Long Necker having an asshole attitude or Smith having an asshole attitude or something like that. Well, I definitely have that. I'm more of a stern, hey, get your shit together,
Yeah,
wake
you are.
up, and there's help out there and you can get through it. And my way of doing it has been through talking to people just like you. And I was telling you the other night, I joke about a lot of stuff. I'm a smart ass. I, use humor to hide everything. But, like I told you, when I get upset, and this is how I know I have some sort of thing going on in my head, is when I get upset, I start shaking really bad. And it's almost embarrassing. And I can't stop it. And so my success has come from diversion, finding what works for me to help keep my mind off of that. And through time, keeping your mind off that heals you, and it helps not make it so forefront. And, I still think about things. I still see things, the things catch me off guard, like the car door thing or the hood thing. I don't jump out my skin and dive in the ditch, but it's I still react to it, and so that stuff's not going to go away. You just have to find them coping mechanisms, and and that's the other night in our video call. That was kind of what I was trying to get to
Yeah.
with that young man, and hopefully he didn't take it wrong.
Yeah. Um, there's one last thing I want to say to you, and I think that, and I said it to you last night. You have a group of guys that looked at you as their leader, and you look at Longnecker, and you look at Line, and you look at Macaluso, and Chuck, and Cahill, and everybody else. They have nothing but the utmost respect for you. And I know you don't like praise, so this is going to bug the shit out of you, which I don't give a damn. You're going to listen to me for a second. It's my turn to be able to say,
Where's the off button?
you can't figure it out. But in all honesty, they have had nothing but great things to say about you as a leader, and I want you to know that these guys think the world of you. I think the world of you. Um,
Well, I couldn't have been a success without them, so it's all going, but right back at them.
well, you did a hell of a job, and I'm happy to know. Well, I'm happy that I got to be in the same group as you. Just like I put you up there with a Sergeant Smith, Lieutenant Hunyon, Sergeant Wash, and the rest of the leaders as well.
I don't know if I can compare to Sergeant Wash. That dude has all my respect.
He's a hell of a guy.
Yeah.
But his guys talk about him just like your guys talk about you. So
Yeah.
I'm not gonna let you fight me on that one. But listen, it was great talking to you.
Yes, sir.
I've loved our conversations. We're gonna get to talk more because once I get this Rally Point thing going, I want to have you on there as well.
Okay. Yeah, I don't mind at all. It's fun for me. I enjoy seeing the guys.
I do too. So thanks for coming on the show. Love you to death, man. And I
Oh, I almost wore my cab on my hat just to rub it in.
you gotta give me shit about that. Oh yeah. Anyways. But yeah, it's been great talking to you. Sorry I took up an hour and almost 40 minutes.
Yeah.
But this has been great. And I will see you in the group chats. Okay.
All right, we'll be there.
Always first.
Thanks, Tim.
Yeah.